Hello and welcome to Barb Talks. Today I'm going to talk about how I've lost 7 pounds in 10 days. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to give you any medical advice here. I'm just going to tell you my story on how I lost this weight. I went to my Welcome to Medicare appointment recently, and some of the concerns that I had were that my gut was getting really big. It was about 37 inches, and that's not healthy. My weight was around 134, 135, so I was within the weight range of what I should be, but I was worried about the gut because there's a lot of problems that can happen from a larger gut in proportion to the rest of your body. The other issue that I brought to my doctor was I would have had these just a smattering of really small hives. They don't really itch, but there'll be something like on my shoulder or something on the back of my leg. So I asked her, what could the cause of this hive be, or these hives that I've been getting off and on for months now. And she basically kind of blew it off and said, oh, hives just happen and we don't know why. Just keep eating and exercising like you've been doing and everything will be fine. My wellness appointment, they took some blood tests and some numbers came up where my cholesterol was a little high and my LDLs were a little high. So I asked my doctor about that. And the person who answered me back said, well, they're not high enough for medication. So just keep eating and exercising and everything will be fine. And I'm going, I'm very proactive about my health and I don't want to just wait until something gets worse and then go on a medication. I'd rather figure out what the core cause is. A few days later, I had a wonderful donut with my son. And the following day, I broke out in full-blown hives, welts all over my body, from my neck down, full-blown hives, red, itchy, and it was just unbearable. But I'd experienced that one other time in my life. And as soon as I had the full-blown hives, I knew what the problem was. It was a whole body yeast infection. When I was 28 years old, I was getting ready to get married to my husband and needed antibiotics about a week before. So I took the antibiotics. About 2 weeks after the honeymoon, I started breaking out in these quarter-size welts all over my body. And my husband had terrible gas. We got married and this is what we get? It's like, are we allergic to each other? And I went to doctor after doctor after allergist. Finally, I went to a chiropractor and he didn't even want to touch me. He said, you need to see a naturopath. So I'd never been to one. I went to a naturopath and she told me that I had a really bad full body yeast infection. My body wasn't digesting food because one of the questions was, have you had antibiotics recently? And I had. And she said the antibiotics kill off all the bacteria, the bad bacteria as well as the good bacteria. And then if you don't replenish that bacteria and you don't starve the bad bacteria, then the bad bacteria takes over and it feeds off of carbohydrates and sugars and stress and all the things that was happening after a newlywed. There's good stress, but it's still stress. And my diet wasn't the best back then. A lot of carbs, a lot of sugar. So she put me on something called the Yeast Connection diet. And it was like certain meats, certain veggies, and that was about it. It was like no peas, no corn, no yeast, no sugar, no fruit, no gluten. I really had to work to find combinations, but I did it. She also put me on something called Capricin, which is a caprylic acid. It's a supplement that helps kill the yeast. So what was happening, I was starving the yeast by not eating sugar and foods that yeast feeds on. And I was also killing the yeast by this caprylic acid. But it was so intense. I was overwhelmed with my gut. It was, I don't want to go into detail, but let's just say my body was cleaning out. And I lost weight, but it was inflammation weight. And about 2 weeks it took to get down to a place where there were just minimal hives. And I think it took about 3 months to get to the place where the bacterias were now even again. So I could go back to eating a regular diet, but I was told don't eat a lot of sugar and your body will keep in balance. Because your body can keep in balance as long as you don't put it out of balance. So back to 2026, when I got that full-blown hives, I thought, oh, this is a full body yeast infection. Have I had antibiotics? And sure enough, I did. It was a few months ago. I had a sinus infection. So I had it back in December, but I'm on a much better diet now. So I am not eating as much sugar. I'm eating a lot of vegetables and good grains, and I exercise regularly. I'm in good shape. So I think that's why it took it longer to get into the full-blown yeast infection, because I had a smattering of hives in February, but that was right when I was preparing for Medicare, and I thought, oh, I'm just under stress. I'm just excited. These hives will go away. And then going to my Medicare checkup and having the doctor say, oh, we don't know what causes them. Just wait for them to go away. So I was just following doctor's orders until I got the full blown, and then I knew what it was. So I went online this time and I looked up the Yeast Connection diet just to try to remind myself what were the foods I couldn't eat and could eat. And I found a website called thecandidadiet.com/recipes. And that has been a godsend. There are so many delicious recipes that are already planned out for you that will do what needs to be done to help starve your extra bacteria that's causing the bad yeast. So I immediately started on that diet May 14th, and it's very filling. I wasn't hungry for the fruit. I wasn't hungry for anything else, whereas when I was on it 30 some years ago, I was always hungry. This time, I think because there's a lot more fat put into it. Avocados and olive oil and coconut oil and sesame oil. So there was a lot of fat that was incorporated into these recipes. And there's enough variety. There's breakfast recipes, there's lunch dinner recipes, there's drinks, there's snacks. One of the recipes is a breakfast cereal that I actually use as cookies. So I'm not feeling in any way deprived, which I really appreciate. I've ordered the caprylic acid. It hasn't arrived yet. But from the candidadiet.com website, it explains a little more of the science of it. And it says you really should start with just the food first before you add the caprylic acid to kill the bad yeast. Because that way you don't have as many side effects. And it's been true. I have not had the same gut issues and hunger that I did the first time around. And I have lost inflammation weight. So since I've been on this diet, and I've been on the diet 10 days, I have lost 7 pounds. 7 to 8, because I was 134 to 135 between that before, so that'd be between 7 and 8 pounds I've lost in 10 days, because I'm 127 now. But it's the inches. My clothes, especially my bra. 2 days ago, I went to get a bra fitting, because they say if you gain or lose 5 pounds, you should get a new bra. I've gone from a 36 band, which is this part under the bust. I've gone from a 36 band to a 32. That's how much inflammation I was carrying in my back and in my organs in my gut. I am just flabbergasted at how much inflammation I've been carrying around. Pounds and pounds of inflammation. So I had to go get a new bra. I'm not sure how much weight I'm going to end up losing by the time I get on the caprylic acid and after about 3 months. But I didn't start this as a weight loss journey. I started this as a health concern journey. And I'm not going to try to diet my way down to a smaller size, even though I probably am. I mean, I'm obviously a smaller size already. So I guess I am dieting myself down to a smaller size. But I just care about my health. And so I wanted to share that with you, just in case maybe you don't have to break out in hives to get the message that something's not quite right in your body. But possibly if you've had antibiotics any time in the past, you might be holding on to some extra inflammation weight that you know nothing about that is causing other health problems. So I just wanted to share with you my journey. I will let you know too, I went from 41 bust, 37 waist, 39 hips to 39 bust, 34 waist, 39 hips in 10 days. All of that was inflammation. I wanted to share that with you today. I hope it's helpful for someone else. Thanks for being with me today, and thanks for watching Barb Talks.